Let's face it, business technology is frustrating and complex. So how do you make sure it works for your team? To make IT right, start the discussion at go-domain.com. You're listening to Discussions by Domain, a podcast for business leaders. Our discussions may be with people you've probably heard of before, but the majority of our guests are in the trenches, professionals like you and I, with the same challenges and struggles of keeping up in the Northeast. They're implementing strategies, overcoming hurdles. They're leading the fastest growing businesses in our region. My name is Anthony DeGraw, Director of Partnerships at Domain Computer Services, and the host of this show. When I'm not talking with business leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of Domain and the ups and downs of our own growth journey, as we intend to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. So welcome to another episode of Discussions by Domain. Today I have the pleasure of welcoming Cory Kazar, who is the Director of Sales at DefinedLogic. Cory, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Cory, why don't we get started with telling me a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you guys are up to at DefinedLogic.
Sure. So I've been heading up sales and marketing at DefinedLogic for the last 7 years. DefinedLogic is a digital agency actually located in Red Bank, New Jersey. 18-year-old company, been around for a while, seen the beginning of the internet boom and kind of worked its way through the consulting phase and the IT and business and technology and marketing shifts and worked its way out to the agency world.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Good stuff. So today, Cory is going to give our audience really good insights into digital and digital being king and customer experiences and personas and kind of really transforming information technology world with the digital and data and analytics. So why don't we just get started with you diving right into why is digital king in 2019?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, right? But when you kind of look at it, Amazon is ruling the world. And Amazon is a pure digital play. When you look at everything in totality, no matter what vertical, the leaders of every industry tend to be digitally focused. When you look at real estate, you see Realogy and Coldwell Banker and Compass being leaders in that industry. You look at banking, you got TD Ameritrade, TD Bank, Ally Bank, a full digital bank, completely one of the leaders of the industry. So every vertical that you look at, digital is king to the leaders of those verticals, and I think it's really important, no matter what size business you have, to really be digitally focused and look forward in a digital perspective.
Okay, so how does a business who's maybe on the middle, small to mid-size market, how do they start to transition their business into this digital? What are some steps that they can take, small steps, let's say, to get started with this digital transformation?
Yeah, I think you really have to look at it one step at a time. You really have to know who you are as a business and really know who your customers are and what they're looking for. And what can you do to make their experience easier, and not just within your store, but also outside your store, in their home, on their phone. Everywhere they go, they're thinking about you. And they have the simplicity and the experience that they would have being next to you everywhere they go shop or everywhere they need your services.
Yeah. Okay. And so what would be, does that start with the website? Does that start with, where do they start with that, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with brand, in my opinion. Brand. You really have to know who your brand is, know who your audience is, know what you want to convey, and then make that presence on your website and through your social channels and through all digital touch points, really, whether it be the website or whether it be third-party applications that are just making your services easier, using a Salesforce CRM, for example, to be able to integrate and touch your customers in multiple different ways through digital components. And it really comes full force. But really, at the end of the day, you really have to know who your brand is, where you want to go, and start kind of creating a roadmap for each direction you want to be in order to have a full digital transformation make sense.
Okay. And what would you say, like one of the questions that would come to me is, what would you say is the typical timeline around that roadmap, really from zero to full transformation? That's not happening overnight. Yeah. So from your guys' eyes that are doing this every single day for businesses, what does that actually look like?
I mean, it really depends on the size of the company and the complexities that you have on the IT side and your customer base. I think the true answer to that is it really should never end.
Okay.
You should always have the mindset of that you want to be digital, you want to be focused on digital, you want to have a roadmap and plans to make yourself more digital, but digital changes every day. What was out and cool and new 9 months ago is no longer cool and new now. You just look at technologies, for example. How many times a year does a new version of Drupal come out, or a new series of some type of CMS, or move into a new version? I mean, technology changes frequently, and the tools, especially moving towards more of a SaaS-based model across the board, you really just have to stay up with what the current technologies are to be able to move forward, but always consistently have them in the roadmap and never be complacent with where you are, or that's how you end up being left in the dust.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a really good point with a lot of things, even around sales, marketing, technology too, in like the business that we're in is, what was good 2 years ago
Absolutely.
Constantly needs to be changed, updated for, in the cybersecurity world, the threats of today versus the threats of yesterday, right? So in this space as well, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper and get your knowledge on brand. You talked a little bit about brand there. Can we dive deeper there, especially around, we've done a lot of work, and I think a lot of businesses need to do a lot of work around what is the customer profile? Who is the user that we're, trying to target, and defining that user to everybody? And how do you guys look at that?
Yeah, we really like to, when we work with companies, we really like to define who their buyer and their users are. And we create buyer and user personas. Some companies might have multiple buyers and multiple users, so you have to define a couple different personas for each of them. But really getting to know who those people are. Does Sally purchase these items because they're on a discount and it helps save for college for her kids? Or is she the kind of person that's going to spend $40,000 on XYZ just because she has the disposable income? And each one of those target customers, you market to differently. They shop in different stores. They shop in different ways. Some buy online, some are bargain hunters and want to go and find their deal of the week. So you really have to define who they are. And then on the services side, on a B2B side, it's the same thing. It's a lot of people like to say that B2B is a lot less complex than B2C, but I actually happen to disagree. I think B2B sales and B2B businesses, you really have to do the same level of focus that you would on a B2C with who you're presenting to, because now in 2019, with digital being king and everything being so readily available for everybody, you have to know who your buyer and who your user are, even for services-based industries, because you have to market to them and pitch them the right way.
Yeah, no, I like to, I've always gone with it's not B2B or B2C, it's B to H, which is business to human, right? We're all humans. We all interact the same way. The way I show up to work in a B2B space is I'm still the same person when I go home. And you can still market to me whether I'm at work or at home or whatever, and you're still going to connect with me based on the platforms that I'm on.
Yeah, I mean, it's human to human. It's H to H.
H to H.
And I mean, to that point, how many times at nighttime are you scrolling through Instagram and you end up getting an advertisement for something that's work related, and next thing you know, you're tailing off 30 minutes of your night diving into something.
Almost every
night. It never really
ends.
ends.
It doesn't. And it's almost literally every night where I will find something that has to relate back to work through a platform of my personal profiles.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
Yeah. And going back to understanding who your user and buyer personas are, and knowing what digital touch points you have to reach them on, Instagram being an example that we just mentioned. That marketing really never ends. It's 24/7 marketing. So you really have to know who you're targeting and how you're getting them, because your free time during the day, from a business B2B side, might only be that 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night where you're hanging out on the couch. The kids are asleep and the wife's scrolling through her Instagram, liking everything, and you're just trying to figure out what's going on.
No, that's good stuff. In terms of let's talk about that. We got Instagram, we got Facebook, we got LinkedIn. I spend a ton of time there. Mm-hmm. Is the creative, is the advertising the same for these platforms, different for these platforms? What is the experience that you guys have?
It's very different across all three. Again, it really depends upon what industry you're in and who your buyer personas are to make sure that you're targeting to the right person. Instagram, for example, is very visual. So you have to have very engaging posts that when you're scrolling through fast, they're catching your eye, and then you're going back and you're reading a little bit about the company. Facebook happens to be, although part of the same platform, Instagram and Facebook, we find the best way to target people individually just because of the abundance of data that Facebook provides you. So you can really go to a granular level. I mean, on a real estate side, you can dive down to first-time home buyers based on people that just changed their relationship status from single to engaged. Those things you can't do on a lot of the other social platforms or through Google AdWords, but you can do them through Facebook. So Facebook is in my opinion, is probably the most powerful marketing tool specifically for small businesses with limited budgets.
Okay. That's really good insights. So let's go to, I think, one area where people struggle a lot is when you start to get into the data side of it, right? With Facebook advertising or any advertising, you start to get tons of analytics, web analytics, cost per click, all of these things. Do you have some insights on there to make it almost a little bit maybe simpler for people to understand from a higher level? And what should individuals be looking for in these areas?
Yeah, it's almost the case where there's so much data, it's bad.
Yes.
Data,
yes.
You get the data overload and you don't know what to do with it and you kind of go into a freeze. It's not easy. There's really no easy way. Facebook and Google have tried to make it as easy as they can for anybody to go in there and kind of do their marketing, but there's so much data behind the data that unless you have somebody that is truly a Google certified or Facebook certified advertiser, you're probably going to be spending money incorrectly.
Okay.
So my suggestion for that would be, there's definitely try to, if that's a new goal for your company, or even if you're a larger company that has an internal team, get an external set of eyes because they're looking at things different than you are. If you own your business and you're doing your own marketing, you have a different set of passion than somebody that would be coming in from a third party. Like, this is your baby. Yeah. So you see it in a very specific point of view. But getting somebody else in there with a fresh set of eyes can think outside the box a little bit than what you probably will on a day-to-day when you're living and breathing that business. Hundreds of ways to dissect it, but you really there's so many tricks to the trade and a lot of A/B testing, very similar to email marketing. You got to really find out what is the best way to get those click-throughs for the least amount of cost.
Okay.
And that's really the goal at the end of the day.
Okay. So you brought it up. I wasn't going to ask about it, but it's something that actually we struggle with at Domain. So if we're struggling with it, I'm sure somebody else is, right? Email marketing.
Yeah.
How do you guys approach this with your customers?
Email marketing is hard, especially if you have a user-generated list of people that know you and have opted in. It's a lot easier. But from trying to reach out to, I don't know, you don't know them, they don't know us type of customers.
Yeah.
It's tricky because there's a fine line that you got to dance on between spam and content marketing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no silver bullet for email marketing, but I prefer to really be focused on the content and focused on small batches of people. Diving right back down to those personas again, right?
Yeah.
You might be targeting so-and-so who is a CFO of a law firm. That person is going to be looking for different types of content from you than a CFO of a supermarket. So creating that content and creating a relationship through there is really, in my opinion, the best way to have them start engaging in your company. Give them the content that's meaningful and relates back to the services that you do, but at the same time, don't try to hard sell them. Create a relationship, and then hopefully that relationship then turns into an opportunity.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And something that I try and go by is like, how can we create content that is going to start a conversation or create a conversation? And it could be a conversation around what we do or a conversation about something completely different. But how do we get people talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if digital's king, content's the queen.
Okay.
Because you can't do anything without the content.
Without the content.
I'm sure that's what majority of marketers have a hard time creating, is because you just need so much of it, and it's just hard to generate good, solid content.
Yeah.
But the content is so important to anything that you do from a digital marketing perspective.
Okay. No, I really like those insights. So I wanted to go to let's talk about some of the industries that you guys have solved problems for. You obviously have some really good case studies on the website there, and it looks like you guys just relaunched it.
Yeah, we just did a rebrand, trying to just clean some things up. We got a handful more case studies that are going to be popping up this week, so hopefully
awesome.
Hopefully anybody that goes there will be able to dive in.
So by the time this goes live, we'll make sure Tyler links to the new site in there, and they can check out the case studies. But I've seen things with Monmouth University, Humana, Prudential, Weichert. Can you talk to some of the challenges that those customers were facing and how you guys looked at those?
Yeah. So we're specifically industry agnostic for a reason. We are solution selling experts at the end of the day, so we really focus on listening to what the customer's problem is and coming up with a solution. And because we're kind of rooted in that nature, and that's kind of what we grew in, we can kind of morph into any vertical or any industry and then eventually become experts within that industry, which is really nice. We do kind of focus primarily on financials, telecom, and insurance kind of falls under financials, and real estate. And more so recently is that we really took a dive into higher education, which happens to be one area of a business that I actually love, because there's nothing better than going to a university campus for a meeting. It's so much better than going to than a corporate office. You really start to feel young again.
Yeah.
Makes you want to go back to school.
Yeah.
So Monmouth University has been a partner of ours for probably the last 5 or 6 years, and they're a great partner. It's one of those relationships where it's really two-way. We work with them transforming their digital experience, really their .edu experience. Education is just one of those verticals where the educational cliff is coming. There's more universities and more open spots than there is 18-year-olds in the next 10 years.
Okay.
So it's the industry is really fighting for every single student to get in there. And at the same time, they don't just want any student, they want better students to better their university experience. So one of the things that we did with Monmouth was we redid their .edu experience, and before we actually dove in there and did any code or design, is we really started to understand what is it that their students what are they looking for and what are their students looking for. They're looking for a certain persona of student to attend a university that is on the Jersey Shore, private university, smaller class sizes, relatively high in the average tuition.
Yeah.
But what you get for that is really basically a one-on-one learning experience where you're not going to have more than 15, 18 people in a class. So very different from the Rutgers University or a large university. And they found that, most universities found that their students are really starting to look now at 15 years of age. So you're not just marketing to the student 1 year beforehand, an 18-year-old, a college student. You're really marketing to a high school student. And you're not just marketing to a high school student, you're marketing to high school students' parents. So there's a lot of different touch points that you have to have there. You have to engage in the student. You have to engage their parent. And those are two vastly different personas.
Yeah.
The way a 15-year-old looks at any type of educational experience or digital experience or anything actually in the world versus what their parents are looking at 30, 40, 50 years old is very different. So being able to have the right content, being able to have the right imagery, being able to have the right customer experience and user experience to make the college look fun for the student, make sure that they're getting what they want from an educational standpoint, but also getting that experience. At the end of the day, everything's experiential for a college student. You have to have the experiential learning, the internships. You have to make everything worthwhile. And for the parent, you have to validate that this is a good investment for me, for my son or daughter, because I know that they're going to come out of these 4 years a better person.
Yeah. No,
so it's 100%. The higher education vertical is something that we love working with because it is such a hard challenge from a content perspective and just from a mass size of the site. There's so many content authors and there's so many different individuals that are contributing that it's a huge project every time.
Yeah.
We work with Monmouth, we work with NYU, we work with a couple other universities, and they typically all have the same areas of concerns and problems. But it's fun. It is really fun, and it's actually something that I think you're going to see a lot of talking about. Digital being king. I think digital is going to be a huge play in education in the next couple of years, as you see a lot of universities shifting to online program models for students that can't get onto campus every day, and companies like 2U, who is a online SaaS product, being valued at $5 billion. So it's a huge industry and I think there's going to be some amazing change and some amazing challenges, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun at the end of the day.
I think you're completely right. I think the disruption in that space is on the cusp. From even just the personal professional education that you and I can go and get now, we don't have to go to a university to go get some single expertise in some area that we want to learn about, right? We can go right online to figure this out. And I think to tie it back to businesses too, the understanding the multiple personas within just the university, there's some products out there, so services out there that are just as complex, right? And they have to, one user may be on the new up and coming platforms in the social media world, and the other users may be a little bit lagging behind, and they're just getting, relationships with Facebook and stuff like that, and really taking advantage of that platform. So understanding those, where they're at, and working full circle, how does this all come back around, I think is crucial.
Absolutely. I agree with everything you just said.
And that's got to be a big undertaking. I mean, the roadmap on that is, I would say, 2 to 3 years at minimum.
Definitely. It definitely is. And you have to have you have to have the mindset from top down. You can't just have somebody in the middle that's thinking this. It has to be coming down from from all the way up to the
everybody's got to be bought in, right?
Yeah.
Because this is going to be a process that's going to take time, and you're not going to see results immediately.
Yeah, from CIO to janitor, it affects the entire company.
So let's transition over. You just mentioned CIO. How is the marketing, the creative, the experiences are now all getting tied a lot into the actual information technology, the infrastructure that's behind all of this. And now you are having to bring those individuals into play with this as well. Tell me about the transition or the merger almost of technology as infrastructure and also the creative experience.
Yeah, I mean, those two have to work together hand in hand in order to be successful. Traditionally, I think what you saw a few years ago, maybe even as early as 5 years ago, was there was a lot of pushback from the IT side of the house to the marketing side on what marketing wanted to do and what IT would say, hey, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do within our walls. But I think you see those walls kind of break down a little bit and almost be a symbiotic relationship between the marketers and the head of technology and saying, all right, this is what we can do. This is what we have to do together, because they both realize that I can't successfully brand and market my company and go into digital transformation without your help. And without you doing this, we're going to fall behind on the IT side, and that's going to be the reason that our company goes down.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting dynamic. I mean, they were so separated as early as 5 years ago. Like I said, there was really a complete, and I'm sure you see this in your industry
100%,
too.
Yeah.
But now these two have to kind of work together and hold hands and make sure that they're aligned, and the roadmap really needs to match both sides. And I think it's actually when you work with a company that does have that type of relationship between the business and the IT side, it works out really, really well. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about communication.
Yeah, I would completely agree. You're starting to see, like, from the IT perspective, right? We always talk about blending productivity with security, right? And they don't go hand in hand, but you got to make them work together. And now you're adding into the growth of the business. And there's different platforms out there that sales, marketing need to engage with to continue to transform the business, to keep it moving. And everybody's got to come to the table and be aligned on the same goals. And then, like you said, communicate all the way through.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff. Any other insights you wanna share with us about what you guys are doing at DefinedLogic? Maybe some challenges that you're typically seeing people running into and how to avoid them?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, our customers are always facing challenges around customer experience. Just how are they going to create their experience that's a little bit better than their competition and streamlines the customer to find the information that they're looking for and either purchase or get to the point of sale that they're looking to get to them at the customer journey. And it's a challenge for everybody, but it's something that you got to continually work on. I don't think customer experience is something that necessarily you do as a project, and yet at the end of the day, you wipe your hands clean and say, we did it, and then everybody goes back to their desks for the next year and a half until they have to do it again. I think you have to do it in iterations.
Okay.
And continue, your traditional surveys and understanding what the customer's feedback is, and using analytics and data to make sure that your digital sites and digital experiences are working. There's so many tools out there now to see where people are going and tracking what they're doing and where they're falling off, and where you can continually innovate.
Yeah.
So innovation is just a part of customer experience. I think it's something that you should never stop doing.
No, I completely agree. And you had brought up to me previously in another venue the whole transformation. We talked a little bit about banking, and I was like, I haven't walked into a bank in 4 years.
Exactly.
And but to my parents, that's like, and my grandparents, that's like they walk into a bank once a week. And to me, it's I don't need to. There's no reason for me to walk into a bank, and I think you guys are on the cusp of helping people understand why that, not just in banking, but in all these other industries, why that's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, banking is. I'm always fascinated with banking. Prior to DefinedLogic, I was working for a fintech company, and that was kind of in the beginning of the digital shift in financial technology. So I'm always fascinated seeing the growth of that. And Ally Bank, as I mentioned earlier, is just one of those banks that I love watching what they do, because they literally don't have brick and mortar stores.
Yeah.
Yet they are one of the biggest and most reputable banks in all of North America.
Yeah.
And, going to your point is, I haven't been inside of a branch in 4 or 5 years either.
Yeah.
But your parents have, or your grandparents have. What a lot of the big banks and what the good banks have done is they've managed to create an experience that what your parents are experiencing in that branch and what they're used to versus what me and you are experiencing
Okay.
online or at an ATM or, without any human interaction.
Yeah.
Is the same experience for both of us. It's a seamless customer experience and omni-channel experience across the board.
Okay.
And I think that's where a lot of the big banks have done a good job in the last few years of doing that. Chase has done a fantastic job with that. Citibank has created the cafes. So I mean,
is it Citibank? Yeah. I was going to say Capital One too. I thought
Capital One cafes. I apologize.
Yeah, I was just seeing that too, and
Capital
I'm like,
One cafes.
That's brilliant.
So it's just thinking outside the box, and how do you create an experience that is. Because at the end of the day, banks still want you to come in those doors. I mean, that's how they get you to open that savings account or that or refinance your mortgage.
100%.
But to be able to create that experience seamlessly across the different areas and different touch points of their business is crucial for them to be able to retain their customers. Because as you think about banking 10, 15 years ago, it was a hassle to leave a bank and go to another one.
Yeah.
Now you can leave one bank and jump to the other in 15 minutes or less.
100%.
I mean,
you're right. Yeah.
The hardest part is maybe setting up a couple auto payments.
Yeah.
So you got to. But the reason to leave, if you actually look at the statistics, a lot of customers leave banks because of customer experience, not because most of the rates are the rates nowadays. It's kind of even across the board, but it's the experience that a customer can have and the simplicity of using their online banking and being able to save for their future goals. Look at Acorns, for example, from a fintech side, is just taken over in the millennial space as a means to save. Yeah. So it's just it's very interesting seeing that digital transformation across the whole board of financial technology.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue to see this future. I'm glad you guys at DefinedLogic are pushing the bar and helping companies really do this for themselves and keep them alive and thriving for the future. Because if not, you're gonna fall. You're gonna start to fall behind, and it may not be your competitor may not be the competitor that's down the road anymore, right? That was used to be the competition. Now your competitor could be in California, it could be in New York, it could be wherever. Because if they have the digital experience and they make customer experience really easy to use and sign up and engage with them, they're gonna grab the business.
Absolutely. I mean, the world is a lot more of an open marketplace than it's ever has been, and it's probably just going to continue getting more open as the years go on. So, understanding who you are, what you want to do, who your customers are, how they feel about you, and how they envision you as a company, and defining who those personas are that are your customers, and then creating that roadmap and that digital customer journey it's key to success.
I love it. So before we end, we're going to get into some of these rapid fire questions. They're quick questions. They don't have to be quick answers. But the first one I'm going to ask you about is if you're to go back to let's go to your 21-year-old self. You're just about to graduate from school, and now based on where you're at, what advice would you give to that individual?
Go back to school. Don't graduate. Yeah. I would have gotten into technology faster. I didn't go to school for technology. I actually went to school for music. Always had a big passion for music and technology.
What type of music? What do you like to play? What do you like to listen to?
Depends on the kind of day, but Gaslight Anthem's probably my go-to.
Okay.
I'm a Jersey guy, so Gaslight and Bruce and a little bit of Bon Jovi every now and then. It's crazy. I'll have a playlist on, and 1 minute it'll be country, and the next minute I'll be listening to Travis Scott. So who knows?
Yeah, no, I'm a very similar way. All right, good stuff. And then what about books? What book have you gifted, or what book has changed your thought process the most over your life?
Yeah, I actually just finished reading a book called Accelerating Your Agency, and a few of us in the office actually have. It's just very insightful for anybody that's in the agency field to really kind of just take a quick read, a very quick read. But everything that the guy wrote in the book, and I'm drawing a blank on who the author is. I apologize to the author out there.
We'll find it.
But it just made so much sense.
Okay.
I think that you could read this as any type of business owner and translate it to what your business is and how you got to think about really marketing yourself and creating a strategic internal plan for how you want to grow your business over the next 5 to 10 years.
Good stuff. So there's more points in there than just like an agency standpoint. Yeah. It's about just business in general.
Yep.
Too. Okay. Next question would be around thought leader. So who's a thought leader, an innovator, maybe even an everyday practitioner, like we like to call them, that you know of in our backyard here in New Jersey, the local area, that you want to give a shout out to that people should learn more about?
Yeah, being in this area and being in the technology space, there's a big push around the Silicon Shore. And I actually think one of the leaders in that push is Colin Daye, the CEO of iCIMS.
Okay.
I love following what he does and what his company's doing over there. They're a 500-person company in Bellworks, focusing on HR technology and really making a SaaS-based model and really making a change in the landscape of our community and bringing technology and letting people know that you don't need to go to New York, you don't need to go to Philadelphia. There's a great tech scene here in Central Jersey. I think he's really pushing the envelope on that. So if you have the opportunity to follow him on LinkedIn or any of his social channels and catch what iCIMS is doing, I think that's a great company to watch.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that too, because I think it is, it's given me some energy knowing that whether it be Homedale, New Jersey or Asbury Park, or even where you guys are in Red Bank there, right? The tech scene is kind of rejuvenated here. And there is so much history too about the whole Bellworks and what it is, and anybody can go check it out. But that's really good stuff. And, real quick mention on iCIMS. We joke around the office is that you never see any we don't see any advertisements directly from them, but what we do see is their billboards on the New Jersey Turnpike that says,
you don't need to go to New York.
Yeah, stop your commute. And we're like, nobody knows what they do, but stop your commute, and it's a really good, like, knowing who your employee base should be. Yep. Right?
Oh, I was going to say that the tech scene, going through that, the tech scene on the shore of Asbury, Red Bank, Homedale, Long Branch is really booming. And one of the things that we've did a couple of years ago is we started up Studio Red Bank, which is a incubator for entrepreneurs, local entrepreneurs, if you will. Really, it kind of focuses on working alongside Monmouth University and getting entrepreneurship students over there with their ideas and mentoring them. It's a group of folks from DefinedLogic and a couple other businesses in the area. And if you have an idea and you need some help trying to get it to either at the point where you are getting VC capital, or maybe you already have it and you're just trying to figure out your business plan, through Studio Red Bank, we set you up with mentors that work shoulder to shoulder with you to kind of get you pointed in the right path.
I love that. And is there a site or
Yeah, it's www.studioredbank.com.
Okay, we'll make sure we link to that, because that can be a very valuable resource for a lot of individuals. And then the final question would be a charity that you or the company supports, and a little bit about them and how also people can touch base with those and learn more about that organization.
Yeah, we do. The one thing we do is a shore cleanup every year. Derek Riddle, one of our principal consultants, heads that up. So he goes down to the shore. Usually happens in the beginning of April. I think it just happened on April 12th.
Okay.
So he goes down the shore with a whole bunch of people and just cleans up the beach before the towns get there and just gets some of that winter crud off and ready to go for the spring and the summer. We also do a lot with Monmouth University. As I mentioned earlier when talking about them, is we truly have the relationship where we are great partners with each other.
Okay.
We do a lot of work with them. We give a lot back to their School of Science to really help their students with the summer research programs and things of that nature. We try to work primarily with them to get interns on board. We're just big advocates of the university. If you haven't been there and you live in the Monmouth County area, go take a walk on a day off and just check out how beautiful the campus is. Go to a basketball game. The arena is beautiful. It's just a very the arts program is fantastic. It's a very underappreciated part of our community that I think more people that aren't necessarily involved in the community need to get involved and know about the things that are going on right in your back door.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's one of those universities that I've never even personally looked at.
Got to get over, man.
And I have a cousin who's getting her master's there now and is in marketing technology and whatnot and working at Commvault, and they're providing opportunities.
Great programs and great athletics, and it's just fun family events. So
cool.
Get on out there with the kids.
Yeah. All right, Cory, thank you so much for your time here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in iTunes or your favorite podcast player. This guarantees that every episode will get delivered directly to your device. To help us get the word out, share with a friend, leave a review, and check out our discussions on the web at go-domain.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.